I am formally announcing my intention to cut off all trade and investment with Iran.
Our second goal is to prevent regimes that sponsor terror from threatening America or our friends and allies with weapons of mass destruction. Iran aggressively pursues these weapons and exports terror, while an unelected few repress the Iranian people's hope for freedom.
I strongly believe that our national security interest now depends upon preventing Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon.
What I can say to you, Iran will never get a nuclear weapon on my watch, as they say.
This terrorist regime can never have a nuclear weapon. I'll say it again. They can never have a nuclear weapon.
For decades, the relationship between the United States and Iran has been shaped by tension, mistrust, and shifting strategies. But it wasn't always like this. There was a time when Iran was one of America's closest allies in the Middle East. During the Cold War, US leaders saw Iran as a key partner. It was considered a pillar of stability in a volatile region and an important counterweight to Soviet influence. The United States supported Iran's monarchy with military aid, economic assistance, and strong political backing. At that time, Iran was firmly within America's sphere of influence. Everything changed in 1979. The Iranian Revolution overthrew the Shah and replaced him with a government that strongly opposed the United States. Soon after, Iranian militants seized the US embassy in Tehran and held American diplomats hostage for 444 days. This crisis shocked the world and permanently altered relations between the two countries. From that moment on, every US president faced the same challenge: how to deal with Iran. By the 1990s, President Bill Clinton described Iran as a rogue state and focused on economic sanctions. The goal was to isolate Iran and pressure it into changing its behavior. Sanctions became a central tool of US policy. After the September 11th attacks, President George W. Bush took a more aggressive stance. He placed Iran in the axis of evil, framing it as a serious threat to global security. This marked a shift toward confrontation and reinforced the idea that Iran was a major strategic danger. Years later, President Barack Obama introduced a different approach. Instead of escalating tensions, he pursued diplomacy. His administration negotiated a nuclear agreement with Iran, aimed at limiting its nuclear program in exchange for sanctions relief. For a brief period, it appeared that cooperation might replace conflict. However, this approach did not last. President Donald Trump withdrew from the agreement and introduced a policy of maximum pressure.
The world's leading state sponsor of terror will be on the cusp of acquiring the world's most dangerous weapons. Therefore, I am announcing today that the United States will withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal.
Sanctions were reimposed and expanded, targeting key parts of Iran's economy. At the same time, rhetoric became more direct and confrontational. Recent developments show a mix of strategies. On one hand, there are signals of possible negotiations. On the other, there are warnings of severe consequences if no agreement is reached. This combination reflects a broader pattern in US policy. Across different administrations, the core concerns have remained the same: preventing Iran from developing nuclear weapons, limiting its regional influence, and protecting US allies. What has changed is the method. Some presidents have chosen diplomacy, others have relied on economic pressure, and some have emphasized military strength. Despite decades of effort, the conflict remains unresolved. Today, the relationship between the United States and Iran continues to be one of the most complex and fragile in global politics. It is shaped not only by actions, but also by words, by how leaders describe each other and define the situation. And as history has shown, those words can influence the path forward. The question now is whether future leaders will find a new approach or continue repeating the patterns of the past.